As we have planned for this second Origin cluster, we will start with Professor Matthew Crawford from the Australian Catholic University. So, Professor, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you for your hospitality in organizing this meeting. This is the second one, of course. I missed the first Origin cluster meeting, but I think this is a fantastic idea, and I'm really excited to see this taking off, not as, of course, replacing the in-person conferences that we all enjoy, but as a way of supplementing them and keeping us in touch in between them. So I think this is a great initiative, and was thrilled when you wrote to me to invite me to share a bit about the upcoming Origin conference to this group. So the main thing that I want to convey at this point is just to reaffirm ACU's commitment to host the conference. I realize it's been some time since we last mentioned this. It was at the last Origin conference, the final session of that in Münster in 2022, that this was mentioned. So we've gone a bit quiet, but we are still intending to host. We're still in the very early stages of that, but in order to give you a sense of who we are, I wanted to share a little bit about ACU, and then I'll give a couple of updates about where we're at with the conference at this point. So the Australian Catholic University, we have 8 campuses and over 30,000 students across the country. I'm based at the Melbourne campus, which is the largest of the campuses. And as probably many of you already know, we have a tradition here of world-leading patristic research going back nearly 3 decades. So the name Pauline Allen will, of course, be familiar to many of you. Pauline was a past president of the International Association of Patristic Studies. She's now an emerita professor, but she and her team did a tremendous amount to advance the study of early Christian studies in this part of the world. So Pauline was the director of a Center for Early Christian Studies here at ACU that fostered the number of other scholars that came up through it. So Bronwyn Neal, Jeff Dunn, Wendy Meyer will again be names familiar to you. And Pauline and her group also were fundamental in founding a regional conference dedicated to scholarship in this area, the Asia Pacific Early Christian Studies Society, that also hosts an annual meeting. So ACU has a long tradition of patristics research. The current embodiment of that tradition is based in the Institute for Religion and Critical Inquiry at our Melbourne campus that I'm a part of. The IRCI was founded in 2014 and has several different research clusters. The research cluster that I'm the director of, the Biblical and Early Christian Studies Research Group, has 10 full-time staff and a growing number of PhD students. So we feel really thrilled to have that sizable group of scholars working in our area in one place, and I think it's a great venue for hosting an important conference like this. We also have experience hosting these kinds of conferences. So just to give you one example, in July this year, we'll be hosting the annual meeting of the Society for New Testament Studies, which generally has met in Europe annually, occasionally outside of Europe, but we'll be hosting it here in Melbourne in July. So we have experience with international conferences, and we have a fantastic brand new building that only opened last year that'll be an ideal venue for this. So that's a bit about ACU. 2 quick updates then. The first update is that in consultation with other Origin scholars around the world, we've decided actually to postpone the conference by 1 year. So you may recall that the last conference was actually itself postponed a year. So it should have occurred in 2021, but then was put off due to COVID till 2022. If we were to return to the original 4-year schedule, that would mean there would be then only a 3-year gap between the 2022 conference and the next conference. So that would be 2025 to get us back on the pre-COVID schedule, which I think was the original intention. However, someone pointed out to us quite wisely that 2025 is already a very crowded year due to all of the events related to the anniversary of the Council of Nicaea. So there's already going to be, multiple international conferences that year that many of us will be going to, and we decided that it wouldn't be prudent to try and compete in that same space by hosting an international conference in the same year. So we've made the decision to push it off till 2026 to avoid competing with all of the Nicaea events. That then puts it 4 years after the previous Origin conference, 2022 to 2026, but doesn't get back on the original 4-year schedule. So that's something that perhaps could be done with the next conference. So we're intending to move it to 2026. That's the first big update. The second update has come through just this week. I'm thrilled to report that we've just received a sizable donation to support the conference that will go towards bursaries for junior scholars at the moment. That's the intention. So this the funds come from the Kudos Foundation. The Kudos Foundation is the premier nonprofit foundation in Australia to advance the study of Greek and Latin antiquity, and they've agreed to commit funds towards the conference for the purpose of offsetting the cost of early career scholars attending the conference. We're, of course, well aware Australia is fairly geographically isolated, and it takes a long time to get here from anywhere else in the world, and is expensive to do so. But we don't want this to be, or it's as much as possible, at least we don't want this to be a barrier to people attending. So the intention is to use the donations that have been given thus far to support early career scholars from around the world to attend. Details of that are yet to be worked out. And we also are hoping to perhaps secure even more funding to help make the conference a success and keep the registration cost as low as possible for everyone. And the final thing I wanted to say in this venue is that I think this, as I've already said, is a fantastic new initiative that Fernando has started, and I think we should use this as much as possible to stay in touch for the planning of the conference. So very much is still up in the air. We haven't yet gotten down to planning for the theme for the conference, for example, and various other details that need to be worked out. And I think it would be great if much of the energy and ideas for that came through this group. So again, many things remain uncertain at this stage, but I think it's a great opportunity in the days ahead to work with this group to make this next conference a real success. So that's all that I had planned. But again, thank you, Fernando, and thanks everyone else.
No, thank you, Matthew. You are very late in the night, so thank you for doing this effort. I think we are a community of scholars studying an author that moves all of us. So I think being connected is a very good thing, and I think this can make more strong our next Origeniana. So we have a space to make some questions here about the next Origeniana. So Matthew can have this question present in the planning. So please.
Yeah, I'm happy to entertain any questions at this stage, or ideas even.
Patricia, you are muted. I don't know if I understand well, but do you or have you thought in any topic, in any central topic, or is free, is Origin in general?
It's wide open at the moment. I think we will select a theme, as has been done for prior conferences. I think that's the tradition, is to select a theme. So the intention is to do the same, but we haven't yet defined what that will be. So that's one of the main tasks ahead, is to decide what the theme for the conference will be. And I'm open to suggestions, either, if not in this venue or at the present, please feel free to write to me or catch me at other conferences, and would be glad to discuss that further with anyone who has ideas.
Next year is the centenary of the Council of Nicaea. So Origen, of course, is a huge figure among the Arians, among the Athanasians, at the Council of Nicaea itself. It will be an interesting topic to follow up on the commemoration of Nicaea by wondering about Origen's role in the background of the entire controversy.
Certainly, that's not the first time that's been mentioned. I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I see. Sam is giving it a thumbs up. Yep. So that must be a part of it at least.
Excuse me, I would like to know, when is the deadline of submission? When is the deadline of abstract submission?
The deadline.
Oh, the deadline.
Yeah, so it's yet to be defined, but if the conference is happening in, I think we would aim for July or August 2026, in keeping with the time frame from previous conferences. So the submission of abstracts would take place, much closer to that date. So we're still well over a year away from the submission of abstracts. So plenty of time to come up with ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Sara Contini.
I know that everybody would like to come in person, but in case this is not possible, I assume the conference will be held in hybrid form. And if this is the case, will it be like the conference in Münster, where talks could be given in hybrid form, but they couldn't be attended in hybrid form? Or is it going to be fully hybrid?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the short answer is it's yet to be determined, but it's something that we intend to give a lot of attention and careful thought to. It's a tricky issue in that so hybrid conferences are wonderful in that they enlarge participation. People who couldn't come, generally speaking, in person might be able to virtually, and that's a wonderful thing. On the other hand, there are logistical complications. So the conference would have to happen during primarily daytime hours in Australia, and that tends to be not good hours for Europe. So it would tend to be the middle of the night for Europe for the most part, and maybe you could catch half of the day in the US, the latter half of the day in the US. So it would work better for some than for others, but would be a challenge for people based in Europe who wanted to attend the entire thing virtually, let's say. That would be, unless you're willing to significantly adjust your sleep schedule for the period of the conference, which maybe some could do, that would be a challenge. So our facilities are equipped with the technologies to support that. So that's something that I think we could consider, but at this point we've not yet made a definite decision. And it is sort of a balancing act in that once you open it up to virtual participation, then the concern is that might then depress attendance in person. Fewer people will come in person once you provide that option, and we want as many people as possible to come in person because we think that's the richest experience. But at the same time, we don't want to exclude those who couldn't do so. So it's trying to find the right balance between those two concerns.
I understand. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Is any other question? Welcome, John. Hi.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes. Well, we now have a presentation from Dr. Lavinia Cerioni. She is from Aarhus Universität, and she will share news about the upcoming thematic volume of the journal Open Theology, titled Origen and Women, that she's editing. So thank you, Dr. Cerioni, for being here. The floor is yours.
Okay, Dr. Cerioni sounds kind of weird coming from you, so
yeah.
Thank you, Fernando. And I'm a Marie Curie Fellow at Aarhus University. I am working on a project on origin and gender, but it would be more specific to say that I'm doing a project on origin and the feminine. Essentially, I'm looking at the way in which origin employs the feminine as a theological and philosophical category. So how feminine metaphors, female metaphors, and women are used as metaphors or are allegorically interpreted as theological categories in his works. And as part of this project, I'm editing a volume for the Greuter publisher on the Open Theology it's a special issue of the journal. And it's an open submission, so there are some speakers invited. Actually, it started from a workshop from the last Origeniana, in which we had a very nice workshop on Origin and the Feminine, and it developed into a book. So now we are open for a submission from scholars who have any topic related to Origin specifically. So we're not opening to other scholars of theologians. Obviously, if you want to do a comparative work, I don't know, maybe women in John Chrysostom and Origen, obviously we are open to that, but Origen has to be a big part of it. And I'm saying this because I already received actually a few emails about people asking if I were including other theologians, but no, this is a monographic volume on Origen. And if you like to submit, there are it's a peer reviewed, so I cannot guarantee publication, but it is open access, so that's a plus. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to convince the publisher to waive completely the fee for article publication, but there is a discount of about 20% on their normal fee, which is €1,000 per article. And so you should pay something around €800, but I've talked to Katerina, she's the editor of the volume, and she can suggest at least 3 different funding bodies that are usually funding articles, especially for young scholars, or anyway, people who can demonstrate that they don't have any funding from their own universities or their own research centers for publishing, and you can apply to these funds and see if these bodies can actually cover the fees for the articles. So if you are interested, please do email me and share the rumor that there is this volume going on. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And if not, thank you, Fernando. It's been really good to be here.
Thank you, Lavinia. If someone has a question, please go ahead.
Well, I just think that retired professors should also be given a big discount. In fact, I don't approve at all of paying to have an article published. I refused already this year to pay €230 for an article. I don't see the point. Likewise to have, yes, it's a strange system. It's rife at the moment. Open access, I'm not sure. It's kind of blackmail, you know. Nobody will read your article unless you pay us, but then nobody will read it when you pay us either. That doesn't guarantee anything. And for a book, it's €5,000. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I'm connected with a publishing house here in Japan, just launched in Nagoya. There's published 70 books already. And of course, they're driving other publishers crazy because the method is the book is received. It's, of course, accepted or rejected. It's edited in situ by Jim Heisig, who's an extraordinarily industrious fellow. And it's published immediately. And it's sold on Amazon.com for $16. You know, I mean, if you do it with Cambridge University Press, you have the prestige of the imprint, but you will pay, at least the book will be sold at a prohibitive price, which means nobody will read it.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very strange situation.
A very, very strong issue there. Lavinia, please.
No, yes, I was just saying that I agree completely, but unfortunately, this is the kind of system that the editorial system that we young scholars have to deal with, because if we publish with Amazon, and it's simply not gonna be helpful for us as for our career.
Good. No. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't look good for young scholars.
No,
and that's why it's very always encouraged professors to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very difficult. We have conference that cost £4,100. So it's a very difficult work to be a scholar. So I know that. Well, there are some questions about the the theme of the volume, Origin and Women, I think is a very important theme, and I know Lavinia is doing a fine work editing this volume. This reflects her own work in Aarhus University, no?
Yes, but this actually would be the first volume dealing with Origin and Women, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, there is no one working or has worked specifically on the theme of Origin and Women. There is one article from Ilaria Ramelli and one article from Professoressa Principali, but that's everything I know on Origin and Women. So if you know anyone else working on this, please let me know. I would be very happy, or either to meet them or talk with them and read their articles, because I really don't know anyone working specifically on the topic, and that's why I'm so excited about the project. But I think John wants to.
But there's a lot on Origin and biblical women.
There is one from Maranino. Yeah, actually, that one was.
Well, I'm sure there are books on Mary and the Samaritan woman and maybe Elizabeth, and of course the Song of Songs. There's a woman in that, the Shulamite. So I would think you should begin with the real women, at least the allegedly real women that Origin would have named and talked about specifically, you know.
Well, now Dr. John Solheit. John, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Lavinia. It sounds like a very interesting project. It just makes me think about the manly Tatiana in his treatise on prayer, and whether or not he had women within his inner circle. But if someone was interested, perhaps, in contributing to this volume, is there a deadline for submission?
Yes. The deadline for submission is the 30th of April.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Yes.
Well, maybe Professor Fürst have confusion with the time zone. I think that it's happening. You know, we come and go 1 hour here in Chile in the summer. We are in summer now, as you can see in my shirt. But we have here Professor Samuel Fernández. He is part of the scientific committee of the Origeniana XIII. So, Samuel, please.
Yeah, well, only very few words, because I spoke to Alfons Fürst last week, and he told me that, well, everything is going on. They receive all the contributions, and now they are preparing the volume. They have done a good work in homogenizing all the ways of quoting and so on. And also there is a native proofreader who has read all the documents. And then this is going on. His expectations are to have the volume published by the Conference of Oxford. But it's it's a good expectation, but it is nothing sure. And I could also add a word about another issue about Origin, which is the Clavis Origenis, which is a volume in which Fernando, Sara, and other junior scholars and professors have contributed, and is like the departing point was like the Clavis Patrum Grecorum, but is a work much more developed in the sense that it is not just the critical editions, but also there is an explanation of an introduction for every work, the state of the work, and so on, and then the history of the publication since the Editio Principes till all the critical editions, Diglot editions, and also translations. And then is a lot of information for each one of the text of Origen. And the other thing is that when you see this book, you can realize precisely what are the texts of Origen that have no critical edition. And then the desideratum would be that this volume could also foster to finish, and that is to edit these few fragments and works which have no critical edition, in order to have the whole corpus of Origen with critical editions, and then it will be like a new step in the Origenian works. Okay, well, and then the next step, in different, we are not sure in what way, but the idea would be to have this Clavis Origenis, and then, for example, you go to the homilies on Genesis. This is the entry written by Sara Contini. And then the interesting thing is that since many of these texts have no issue with copyright, it is possible to go to the, for example, to the edition of Erasmus, and then directly see that it is not just the text, but the disposition of the text, and all these kind of things are very interesting, because with these pre-modern editions, we don't have just a text, but also we have in some way we have one step of the reception of the texts, and on the other hand, the idea would be to have like to give the chance for scholars who have no good library to have the possibility also to be in touch with all these texts in an easy way. And then we are not sure what kind of way we will choose finally, but the idea would be to link the Clavis Origenis with all the texts that are open access on internet.